If you don't kill the customer's bugs, they're going to fire you. I don't care how nice you are. Systems are the scar tissue of past failures.
What breakpoints do you usually see that require a new way of operating? Welcome to another session of the Pest Playbook. We have Greg here. He is a veteran of the lawn and pest control industry. He has over 40 years of leadership experience, ranging from companies doing 35 million in annual revenue all the way up to 100 million. So he has got a lot of knowledge in the space, and we're excited to have him on today. Let's start here, Greg. If you were dropped into $1 million pest control company today, what's the very first thing you do to start doubling or tripling revenue?
I really related to this question too, because in 1997, after we sold Sears, then I was able to give myself full time to Middleton again. And in that year, we were doing $8 million. So we put together a plan. We were doing $8 million that year in 97. 9 years later, we were doing 35 million. So we added $27 million worth of revenue in 9 years, and that was no acquisitions. But I have to tell you, the first thing I did is I had to go back and verify the quality of service that was being delivered across the whole org chart. So if I was dropped into a $100 million company, the first thing I would want to do is verify the quality of service, because you got to have something to sell and it has to be sustainable. So we did that with everybody in the organization, and we verified the quality of service being delivered by everyone. And then if we needed to do some remedial training, or if we saw an opportunity to shore up this system, this procedure a little bit, we're able to do that. But when we were done, we had great service. We really had something to sell, and it was sustainable. And that's when I hired an advertising agency too to handle, our advertising strategies.
Excellent. So when you went and you looked to verify that the level of service was where you wanted it to be, what was the biggest impact, the one that drove the most impact that you went and corrected?
Well, I would say the way we handled it made it very impactful, because here's how we did it. I personally went out with our vice president of operations. He was in charge of our sales and service in the company at that time. And I watched him do a pest control treatment. And then and we talked about it, and we talked about our equipment and all the things that we wanted to do to deliver excellent service. And then he took his regional managers and took them to a house and did it with them. They took their branch managers and did it with them. We retrained the whole company in the basic fundamental application, because we didn't want to take knowledge for granted. We didn't want to assume anything. And we just wanted to make sure, man, we were really ready. So, verifying it, not by having people say, oh, did you do it? No, by showing them how to do it and then watching them do it.
That makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. The service at the end of the day, it's like you said, it's the product, right? It's what you're selling. So you've got to.
A lot of people like to say, we're not in the bug business, we're in the people business. I don't go along with those kind of sayings. Man, if you don't kill the customer's bugs, they're going to fire you. I don't care how nice you are. So we're in the bug business, and we also work with people. We build people. We serve people. And, people are extremely important. You want to build a company, you have to build people.
Yeah, exactly. So I think my next question, I think you've touched on part of it already. So when we're looking at the non-negotiables that every pest control business needs in place before they can get real growth, I think the quality control is a big one that you've touched on already. What other metrics or systems or people do you look at when you're looking to really start growing your company?
Well, I wrote down a few things that are cultural in nature. Also, I always require professionalism in the workplace from everybody. We followed the golden rule: treat other people like you want to be treated. That'll take you a long ways in life. It'll take you a long ways with your customers and your employees. And then the other non-negotiables are verified training, documented training, equipment. You've got to have great equipment, efficient equipment, and then systems, procedures, policies. These things have to be documented, and then have the metrics. And you don't need a million metrics. You just need enough metrics to be able to properly read and understand your business. But a healthy work environment, extremely important. And there's a lot of things that make up the work environment: facility, training, benefits, how the manager treats them, how they treat each other in the workplace, compensation, work hours, all that kind of thing adds up to making a healthy work environment. Then, of course, you got to have cost control systems and asset protection systems in place. Systems are the scar tissue of past failures. And that's why we have systems in place in the company.
I want to dig a little bit deeper. So you had mentioned you don't need to focus on all the different metrics out there, right? What are some of the metrics you looked at or that you would recommend keeping top of mind?
For sales, you want to look at leads, close rate. Are they selling annual service or one-time shots? How many proposals per lead are they making? How good is the customer retention in their area? That might give you a hint as to whether or not the sales or the service or both are not up to standards. So, we look at customer retention. We look at how many total dollars has this person sold per lead, and we measure everybody's individual performance. And then, when it comes to technician, you look at total production, route completion, service calls. We would measure by technician how many service calls did they get, and what were these service calls for? If that technician is getting a lot of service calls for German roaches, well, let's get on it and let's train that guy again. Let's train him up so that he can reduce those service calls. And then we look at a technician's customer retention rate in his or her area. And then we also look, of course, at chemical use. Your three biggest costs in your business, if you're in the pest control or lawn spray business, is payroll, vehicles, and chemical use. Mm-hmm. And you do a good job on those three, and you've done a good job toward a lot of things needed to manage your bottom line.
So when we're looking at, I want to dig a little bit deeper into the sales side. I think there's a couple of different avenues that are popular in today's pest control space. What was successful for you, and what do you see today as some of the big channels that produce the best ROI?
No lead source that gives you a better ROI than referrals, and it's the lowest customer acquisition cost. Digital marketing is very good if you got a good digital marketing manager. If not, a good one can get you leads at $40 a lead or, in that neighborhood. But, somebody who's not really understanding how to manage that area, your leads might cost you $150, $200 a lead, and it becomes a little bit prohibitive. But digital marketing it's really a great way to go. And you teach your people how to cross sell, how to upsell, all that kind of thing. One of the things that we did too was we worked at getting everybody in the company selling. Everybody always selling. And that doesn't mean being pushy. That means discovering problems. and offering the solution to those problems. So, selling it's problem solving as much as it is anything. And we created what we called Middleton money. And when the customer gave us a lead, we would give them Middleton money. And it was that money was used to give them a credit on their account. So they had cash on their account as a credit with every lead. And I think we paid $50 a lead to the customers when they did that.
When you say networking, were you training actual technicians to do these, to reach out and connect with others in the local area, or is this more for managers? Like,
no, we had salesmen and local technicians working with them, and the salesmen got a lot of leads from landscapers and lawn mowing guys. They got a lot of leads from those guys. So some of them really built some nice substantial networks. But we had a lot of ways to create leads. We created a whole book for the technicians and trained them in all these different ways to create leads.
And were the technicians getting commission? Were they getting rewards? What was incentivizing them to go out and follow?
Yeah, if the technician sold an account, we paid him the same sales commission we paid salespeople, same rate. And if he brought in a lead, we would pay him a percent of that sale. When the technician sold it, we would give him a percent of that sale, and the technician was happy to share it. The salesman rather was happy to share the commission because the technician brought him the lead from the field. Mm-hmm. And, we would pay the technician 25% of the sales commission. And the salesmen were happy to do that because 75% of it is better than, 0% of something.
As a company grows past 3 million, what breakpoints do you usually see that require a new way of operating?
You need to have an org chart to support future growth. First of all, you got to make sure that you have enough brains in the C-suite to run the company properly. And I was never afraid to hire brains. And I hired some really smart people that were just so instrumental. We had 3 or 4 MBAs on our corporate staff that were head of departments. And you don't have to hire MBAs, but they just happened to have an MBA and understood the pest control business. And then you have to make sure you've got enough management in it, not too much, but enough. You don't want to be top heavy, but you don't want to have managers with their tongues hanging out and them having no more time than to troubleshoot things, and they don't have enough time to develop people and build people. Yeah. So it depends upon the particular situation, but I always had one supervisor for every 7 to 10 frontline people, usually closer to 10. So if I had 20 termite technicians, I needed 2 termite supervisors to properly service those people and to help them and to build them and all that kind of thing.
So, Greg, it sounds like from what I'm getting, obviously people is a big deal for growing these organizations and tracking the right metrics. How do you balance not micromanaging, but also making sure that we're staying on top of metrics and making sure that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing?
Yeah, well, I said earlier that, you had, when we hired you had to come with certain characteristics. You had to come with certain traits. Now, I remember when we were doing about 10 million a year, that's when I decided I need a full-time IT guy. I don't need to outsource it at this point. I need a full-time IT guy. And if anything needs to be outsourced, or if he needs to bring somebody in for a special project, but there's certain people, like the IT director, I had to find somebody that was already an accomplished professional in that area, not a hobbyist, not somebody that does it in their garage and they're pretty good at it, but an IT director, somebody who can run that department and somebody who does a great job at working across departmental boundaries and colluding with people in operations and finance and all that. Now, if you have to micromanage somebody, I don't care what role it is, it should, like if you hire a technician, okay,
Yeah.
even if he has experience with another company, for the first 3 months, you're really going to have to stay on top of it and make sure that, you know, they don't view it as, you know, you breathing down their neck, but you're helping them through that first period of their employment with you. So, but if you have to micromanage somebody past 3 months, there's something, you know, probably not right there. And, you know, we like to train people, then empower them to go do the job, you know. And one thing you might want to do too in a company is you might want to, and you don't hear this often, you might want to develop a strategic principle. And a strategic principle is an actionable phrase. It's something that people can easily remember and they can make decisions in the light of that principle, you know? And so, you know, that's something that we also had in place to empower people so that, you know, you didn't have to if a technician or sales consultant has to call their supervisor for every little thing that isn't just perfectly according to plan or something, they shouldn't have to call their supervisor for every little thing. Not if they've been trained and empowered. They are operating under a strategic principle. They know the core values of the company, that kind of thing. Then, you know, let them make decisions. Let them get things done. A lot of managers make the mistake of becoming a bottleneck. And this happens all the time. In $1, $2 million, $3 million companies, managers become bottlenecks far too often because they try to do everything themselves. They don't hire brains. They don't delegate and empower people. And I could have never built that $35 million company if I didn't empower people, if I didn't hire brains, if I didn't build a team and let them go do it, you know? And of course, you need systems and procedures and policies along the way as well.
One final question, Greg, just to kind of summarize and maybe think through for pest control owners out there of various sizes, what's one or two of your top recommendations, maybe something that's not as well known or a hack that you learned along the way that you would recommend? And I know you've already shared lots of great insights, but anything else that we haven't covered that you'd like to share?
I really believe that if you're going to build a large company, you need to build people. Just build people, man. Build them. So that they are confident. You know, training is not only builds confidence, but it's also very motivational. Build people and, you know, have the systems in place. And at one point or another, there's going to be times when a leader has to have the ability to see around corners. He or she has to be able to see around corners and see what is developing, to maybe see an opportunity before the other guys saw it. You know, there was a guy named Bill Gates who used to work for IBM. IBM said, I think we should go this direction. And Bill says, that's not right. And IBM's leaders at that time didn't see around corners. So Bill Gates left them and he started Microsoft. Now, if you've got an idea that you think's better than what we're doing, let us know about it. I used to buy dinners and bottles of wine and everybody, you know, when they gave us an idea that we implemented. And I had this program called the Speak Up program. And during the course of that program, we had over 6,000 ideas and suggestions given to us from our frontline people. And we implemented about 600 and some of them. Uh, and I read every one of those suggestions when they came in. And we had a little committee that, made of department heads. And I think that committee also had some cross-functional, multi-level people from the org chart in it. And we would discuss that idea and then implement it or not implement it. And that was a great thing to keep people involved and to keep people to doing things according to systems and procedures. And if somebody came up with an idea, if we didn't use it, I always wrote them a letter. But if we did use it, you write him a letter and you buy him and his wife dinner somewhere, and so he looks like a hero at home. And he is a hero.
Yeah.
One thing we're talking about people, I'll say this too about people. Man, if you don't love your people, you're gonna have a hard time being a good leader. You're gonna have a really hard time. And I never referred to our folks as blue collar workers. I never called them that. Never. Yeah. You know what I called them? Gold color workers.
Oh.
They were gold. And they knew we felt that way about them. So, it's people like you. You want to build a business, you got to build people.